Down, Hickey, finally.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to drill down and just look at one particular bill that Alec promoted in the 2012 legislative session, because they do many, but I think if you really drill down in the details of particular bills, you see some interesting trends. And what I want to look at is what's called HCR 49. HCR stands for House Concurrent Resolution 49. And House Concurrent Resolution 49 was designed to keep mercury polluters safe from the EPA. It asked the EPA to not regulate the emission of mercury, which is highly toxic. And when you look at who is the source of mercury pollution, 95% of the mercury pollution in the United States comes out of the smokestacks of coal-fired power plants. What is the second biggest emitter of mercury in the United States of America? The Labadie Power Plant, run by Ameren, just upriver along the Missouri River. Second biggest in the United States of America. So that's what HCR 49 is about, is to say, now that the EPA has finally woken up and said, we got to regulate mercury, Alec wants to stop it. I'm sure Alec is being paid handsomely by the people who emit mercury to do the dirty work, but that was introduced this session. It passed in the Missouri legislature, passed the House, passed the Senate. Now, but it's a resolution. That's the R part of HCR. So it has no force of law. So you may say, well, that's a lot of money to spend to pass a piece of paper that has as much force of law as, the Missouri House recognizes Susie Q for being Miss Petunia Shelbyville, or other resolutions like that might be coming out of the legislature. But the reason that they did that is if you pay attention to the national news, the Republicans are pushing for a vote in the U.S. Senate within the next week and a half on regulating mercury, or not regulating mercury. And one of their key targets is Senator Claire McCaskill. And they want to put the squeeze on Claire to do their dirty work in the U.S. Senate. And I'm cautiously optimistic Claire's going to do the right thing. If anybody talks to her, remind her that she should do the right thing on that vote. But that is part of the whole national integrated program that ALEC runs. So their goofy bills in the Missouri House, which may seem just wacky, actually do have some method to the madness. And I want to make a couple observations about HCR 49 and how it went down that I think are issues that are true across what ALEC does. I'm going to start with the negative, and then I'm going to go to the positive. The negative is HCR 49 was introduced by a Democrat in the House. So one thing that's important is, for those of us who are Democrats, you've got to pay attention in the primary, and you've got to work to elect progressive candidates. Just as when HCR 49 went to the Senate, 3 out of 8 Senate Democrats voted for mercury pollution and against public health. 3 out of 8. Let's see. We have a teacher that's about 40%. We have a teacher about 40%. That's not so good. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, in the House, the HCR 49 was passed by a voice vote. That means that the people pushing it were afraid to have a roll call because they didn't want to go back home and say, yo, Joe, I just came back to Jeff City voting to make sure that you have more mercury in your bloodstream. Ain't I your friend? So the fact that the leadership in the House feared a roll call vote, I thought that was encouraging. On the Senate side, I love looking at the Senate Journal, which is online, and you can look at how people vote. And if you look at that vote, you'll see 2 senators had to run to the bathroom when HCR 49 came out. Schaefer in Columbia and John Lamping in St. Louis County. Why did they have to run to the bathroom right when HCR 49 came up? Because if you look at the journal, they voted on the previous measure, and they voted on the following measure. And maybe it was just coincidence, but something tells me it wasn't coincidence. Something tells me that they didn't want to have to go back to the voters and explain why they are for mercury poisoning as opposed to against mercury poisoning. So that tells me that there still is some fear of the electorate amongst the legislators. I think that's positive. I think another observation that's interesting, if you look at the Senate vote, which is a recorded vote, every single senator who describes him or herself as pro-life voted for mercury poisoning. And mercury poisoning is particularly dangerous for small children because it causes neurological damage, and it's not as bad for us old fogies. We can play with mercury and it's not going to make much difference. We're pretty much over the hill anyway. But for small children, it is deadly. Every single pro-life legislator voted for mercury poisoning. Every single pro-choice legislator voted against mercury poisoning. So I think when you hear candidates talk about how they're so damn pro-life because they love Jesus so much, look at how they actually vote, and apparently they may love Jesus, but they love Amaranth even more. And so I'm going to say, well, if that's the problem, what are some of the solutions? And I think one thing that's important is to use these votes. Alec has made some of these legislators walk the plank to show that they're with the corporate agenda. We now have an opportunity in August, in the primary, in November, in the general, to hold these candidates accountable. We've got a number of good progressive candidates on the ballot. I see Bill Otto back there. Bill Otto is running. He's running in Kirkwood in the back. He's running for Franklin County Commissioner. Jeanette Mott Oxford, who's been a champion in the House. She was unopposed. They were too afraid to even file against her, but they'll vote for her anyway. So let's use this opportunity of these elections coming up and do it in an organized way. One of the things that what Alec does is gives corporations a way to organize, and as many staff as Walmart has, they're still hiring Alec to do their dirty work. They still need more worker bees to do their job. They're about organization. Our side should be about organization. So if you're a teacher and you're in the NEA or AFT, work with them. If you work at Schnucks and you're at 655, work with 655. If you're a Sierra Club member, come to the office and help me because I need it. But whatever organization you're in, get organized, be part of the solution because we've got, I think, 8.5 weeks till the primary election, and this is going to be a real opportunity to hold people accountable for what they've done. Thank you.